Yeah, we are good to go.
So, welcome everyone. This is another webinar of Punjabi Chamber of Commerce, and I am the host here. My name is Sandeep Dal, and I just a little bit about myself. I run a couple of companies here, the founder and CEO of SMB Capital Partner. We are advisors and for merger acquisitions, as well as we invest our own money with our partners with the companies. And I am also the co-chair of the Punjabi Chamber of Commerce. The San Francisco Bay Area, and with Kulwant Sandhu, she is the supply chain leader and the VP of a very good medical devices company here in the Bay Area, out of the Bay Area. About Chamber of Commerce, let me give you a little bit of a brief. We are a non-profit organization funded by the generous support of Punjabis. They are very generous people, and this organization started in 2017 by Gary Pasricha in New Jersey area and has grown globally. And we are no religion, no politics policy in place, and our focus is to enable and give a platform to the entrepreneurs, business owners, and professionals, and all community leaders, and all those people to come together and make the community prosperous and develop their businesses, grow their businesses, and help each other, and even give back to the society a little more. And this is we Punjabis come from varied backgrounds. You see any franchisees and or manufacturing or trucking and businesses and service businesses here in the United States or any part of the world, you will see Punjabis flourishing in those businesses. Now, signing up with this is super easy and free. Just a few 4 or 5 questions and you are in. And we have been not only doing the business, but we have been saving, contributing to the causes in India whenever there is a need. And we have been raising funds for that. And we also have a youth wing, and which is called a Global Youth Squad. And if you are a youth and you have youth in home, please encourage them to start. So here is our guest, Denis, and he is. I'll tell you. I will. This is not enough. What I'm going to say a little more about him, and you will be you're in for a treat today. And so, with a wealth of knowledge gained around 35 years in the sales industry, and he integrates the old school proven sales practices with the new age methods, with leveraging technology to enable sales professionals to predictably scale the pipeline, will win more deals, and enable client success. What more is important for a salesperson or a business person than scaling the pipeline, winning more deals, and enabling client success? He has prospected, and prospected is very important for all of us, is successfully for the last 15 years as an executive, connecting to the C-suite and at the top level for various clients for 5 continents, coached over 1,000 reps in his call center. He now specializes and focuses on coaching, training account executives, sales development representatives, business development representatives, and executives who are mandated to reach the same targets as he did in the past. So his secrets are not within him. He's revealing all the secrets with everyone. As a former elite master athlete in cycling and racket professional, earlier in his life, Denis brings his mindset, which is very important, of preparation and training with the mentality of the elite athletes. I would like to know a little more about that when I talk in the webinar. Now, achieving excellence is the non-negotiable standard for Denis, and he knows that caring coach and a mentor, and I believe in that the mentors are very important for us. So achieving excellence is the non-negotiable standard for Denis, and he knows that a caring coach or mentor can make the difference in reaching the highest level. Denis is married and coaches in English, French, Spanish. He speaks 2 more languages, Italian and German. And by the way he's going in the last 2 weeks, he will, I'm sure, add Punjabi to it, because I am so impressed with his progress in Punjabi in the last 2 weeks. And just a minute. Okay. So acquiring new Clients in the new normal is our topic today, and we have lots to talk. And I want to, I want to talk to Denis and say, Denis, welcome. It's
Thank
a
you.
pleasure. It's a thing. And I want to know what has changed after COVID. What has changed?
Well, first of all, sastrikal to everyone.
That's
Okay. So it's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. It's wonderful. I'm come to know you a little bit over the last few weeks, and it's the kind of people I want to be around. People who care, people who are dedicated to helping others, and to make a better place for all of us, economically and otherwise. In this case, business, but it does carry over in our lives in general. You can't be a salesperson and be another kind of person. You are who you are. So we are a full being. So thank you. So your question was?
What has changed, Denis, after COVID? What has changed? We see so much in the news and internet. Hey, COVID has done this. COVID has done that. This business model is changing. That business model. The Zoom has come in. Technology has done that. So I want to first see what has changed before we go deep into this our discussion.
Yeah. Well, a lot of things have changed, and some things have not changed, and we'll talk about both. But I think that, and I don't have all the answers. I will give my answers based on my experience and the colleagues and the readings and the work that I do on a day-to-day basis. But there is a decompassing professionally and existentially, the fact that we have not been able to have the same reference points, namely to physically be together, to have that velocity of connection with our people, our clients, our prospects, and taking for granted certain things that we now must not take for granted. So, the relationship must be nurtured, and some people are decompassed with the ability to leverage technology. May I just interject and say that, according to me and my closest friend, who's a professor of philosophy, taught me 30 years ago that the best technology in the world is you as a person. You are number one tech stack. You have everything that it takes to be successful and to be prosperous and to be happy and to help your clients be happy in their needs. So that's the first tech stack. So what has changed is that we try to blame and pass on the fault to others, look for enlightenment outside of ourselves. So once we take responsibility, so the compassing has got to change, and has changed, but not necessarily for the better for some. The modes of engagement, how we connect with people, because we have not been able to have the physicality, the approach, we have had to adjust. For some, it has been very difficult based on fear, on lack of understanding, lack of leveraging the use of tools, and not understanding that now you are compelled to have to kind of reach out to people more often, because that physical connection was no longer there. It's something else. It's a visual and an audio. And you can get good at that. You can develop yourself. So it forces people to adapt. I call it there's the IQ, the intellectual quotient, or emotional intelligence as well, or emotional quotient. But there's also the AQ, the adaptability quotient. People have had to really push themselves. That has changed. They've been pushed to certain limits for some in order to fully continue to do business. Buyers, people in the procurement side, we forget. We think of always in terms of a selling cycle. I have changed, and now I view more this as a buying cycle. I look at the buyer. The buyer is front and center. It is tantamount for all of us to focus on the buyer and his or her or their experience. The CX, the customer experience we talk about, that has come in the forefront. The COO is a customer or chief operational officer, but now they have a CX, a chief customer experience officer. because we have to focus on the buyer and help him or them. And some procurement people have decided that, okay, we need a plan to buy. We need to understand how we buy. So it's incumbent on us to change and to look more at how to help them navigate to the buyer experience. And maybe even say, here's the steps that we could do. And this is typically what we do to help you to navigate and to chart your course through the progression of a purchase and not to the progression of a sale. So that's tantamount, the changes in buying versus selling. What has changed also is that you can automate. There are things that previously we could do that we took for granted that it would be labor intensive. But I think that specialization is important as well, in the sense that focus on those core competencies that you have and relegate some of those capabilities and tools and also operational tasks to automation. You can scale up so that you can reach as many people. There is what I learned from a very brilliant trainer, coach, who has created his own. He talks about the PAD, parallel assisted dialer, PAD. That can really dial 100 an hour. So you can always be on the phone while you're spending your hour and a half prospecting every day, which is what I think should be an hour to an hour and a half a day. And we'll get into that in a few minutes. And maybe cultivate also in your heart, because the word sell, what has changed is that people got to ask themselves the question, and I have asked that, and they're reading more. They're starting to, I need to know more because I'm decompassed in this kind of new, what I call hybrid ecosystem instead of a new normal. Someone questioned me the other day, a colleague friend of mine in Australia, Wayne, said, maybe we should wait till we give the word new normal because COVID hasn't finished. So I said, hey, it's a new hybrid ecosystem to operate in, which is just a twist of words, but nonetheless could help people understand or perceive things differently. What has changed as well, you have to become way more knowledgeable in the problems of your clients. And I'm not talking about, I can't really open my phone that quickly. It doesn't load as quickly on my computer. No, serious strategic problems that your client from time to time, hypothetically lose sleep over. And I don't want to use that, overly abused term from way back. Well, what makes you, stop you from sleeping at night? But more so, what makes you from time to time lose sleep a little bit? It's kinder and it's more direct, but it helps people to understand that your clients have problems. So what has changed? You have to be a whole lot more an expert in the problems of your clients, of your prospect. You have to come to the table. And if you're not coming in those first seconds and minutes with real clear understanding, you show them that they can trust you, that you understand their situation, their reality, strategically and operationally. You're facing an uphill battle to be able. So you have, what has changed? You need to become much more knowledgeable about the problems of your clients. And also to adopt what has changed, you have to adopt also a multitasking, omni-channel, combo prospecting, pattern interrupt approach. Curiously, for the 15 years I prospected all over the world and in my country, I was using a 2-3 pronged approach. So I would leave a message. If I couldn't speak to the person briefly, not very long, I would write a short email, and I would try to reach out to them through other networks or LinkedIn. So always 3 action points or touch points in every sequence when you outbound, or do outbound reaching to people. Otherwise, you're going to stagnate and you're not going to elicit the right attention. It's about attention. Attention is the most scarce resource. And there's much more less of it available for you because there's more people fighting for it. So you need to be capable of generating some attention, what some people call traction, right? I've heard a lot of people, I'm not getting traction. Well, you have to be attractive to get attraction from traction. So, how do you get attractive? Well, talk to them about really what really matters to them.
So I have a question here. So you talked about touch points. How many touch points a salesperson or a business owner should think of in this? In the past, you said send somebody a phone call them and leave a message. That should be enough. Maybe a couple of times. Now, with so many activities and the attention getting scarce and scarce, how many touch points do you think a salesperson should plan for?
Well, I mean, what has worked for me, what has worked for many others is 3.
Okay.
4, it's a little bit like, that there's a concept of triad. The triangle is probably the most stable form of geometry. There's a reason for that, maybe deeply into a philosophical standpoint, but 3 touch points suffices.
Okay.
There are so many ways for people to avoid you today, that if you are not, and they have chosen probably one form or one channel on which they want to interact with you. If you don't try all of the different channels, you will never know where. So you can't prejudge someone by virtue of the fact that you've reached out to them and they haven't responded to you. Well, all you've been doing is leaving phone messages. Have you tried email? Have you tried LinkedIn?
Yes.
And even on LinkedIn, on your phone, you can leave a video message of yourself and a direct message. That is with the assumption that they've accepted a connection with you. So maybe start with, hello, Mr. Sandeep, kindly accept my connection. Thank you very much. Very soft spoken, nothing, don't start pitching, don't start talking about what you're doing. Get to connect with the person, engage humanly. It's, HH. So what has changed is be light on your feet, have velocity, repetition, scalability, relevance, but simple at the beginning, very, very softly. How would you like to be approached yourself? Well, just do that onto others. And more likely, you're likely to elicit kind of a calm response from someone. So there's many, many tools.
So what has not changed? Has anything what you think we can talk about? What has not changed? I think you talked about human thing and all that right now. I think that if I can say that has not changed, or that has developed a little more, or the requirement of the humanness has come up, because I was reading a few months back about Yuval Noah Harari, who wrote *Sapient*, and he said, the world is coming to a place where you can learn different skills, technologies, AI, blah 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 blah, and technology, languages, and all that. But the most important skill in the world to succeed now and the next 50 years is adaptability and flexibility. So would you like to say something more apart from what you have in mind about what has not changed?
Well, to your point, what has changed is that we are called upon to become more adaptable. And adaptability, when I studied, human psychology, we talked a lot about, from Hans Selye, a endocrinologist from Austria who lived in Montreal, curiously, and taught at McGill University, about the word stress and the stress syndrome, or what they call the general adaptation syndrome, GAS. Well, you have to adapt. You have to be nimble. And we are, 1.5% genome from a chimpanzee. So we need to become more noble primates, if you allow me the term. And, a noble primate will trust a noble primate or a person. People trust people. People buy from people. They don't buy from machines. Now, that is in the context of a much more transformational strategic purchase. I do go on Amazon or other of these e-commerce platforms, and I do buy from a machine. So my statement is wrong and right, depending on the context. What hasn't changed is that you must be crystal clear on what you want, your desires. And I talk about that in my methodology. Be clear. And Napoleon Hill, a famous author of the book Think and Grow Rich, does not talk about desire. He actually goes beyond that and says you need to have a burning desire. And as an athlete, when I decided that I would reach the world championships and qualify on several occasions, I was training 6 days a week. My coach had a program for me, 6 days a week. I was 49 at the time, 48. So I wasn't a spring chicken. And so I had to devote. But if I didn't have that burning desire, there's no way I would have stand it. And I would have lasted 5 years at 6 days a week of training, with maybe a week and a half break at the end of November to start back December for the following year. Even Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, I was at the gym. You know, I would take a day off, and anxiously so on New Year's Day and Christmas, because I wanted to. But that was because of the burning desire. And we are right now in one of the most stellar, competitive activity in the world, one of the most popular sporting events, the Olympics. And, we have here a young man, Maxence Parot, who had cancer 3 years ago, like serious cancer, and won the gold. And I was so happy for him. And I can just imagine that short of no burning desire, there's no way he would have gone through all that he has done. We often belittle ourselves, we begrudge ourselves of our own lives and our own capabilities. But if you are here, you've decided to make sales a passion of yours, a job, a career for a while, maybe not forever, but you have to learn to give, because selan, the word selan in English, Old English, means to give. And you can check it off. SELLAN is a word. So it's a decision, and it comes from knowing what you want and knowing what you don't want.
So I have a question here. When you talk about sale and giving more than receiving, right? So that you're saying, and I understand that from a perspective of a human, or when I read about human psychology or a buying psychology, people always say, nobody wants to be sold. Everybody wants to buy stuff, right? And I believe on me, and I'll give you one case study of what happened with me. I will not name the guy because I don't want to spoil his career online, but because it'll be wrong karma. But this guy, I wanted to buy a technology. It was around $2,000 a year, and he was so overbearing, and he overpowered me with his speech and all that, and I looked like a chicken in front of him, and he was and then I bought it. Somehow I bought it, and then I regret every minute of it for the last 6 months. And I complained to his boss and all that later on. I could not come out of the contract. But if you ask me to speak high about that company or anybody, I will never. I don't want to speak about that right now, but I'm just telling you how a customer can feel, like you said, do what you want to be treated with. The same way, I think I would like to know more about the giving part of it and the human part of it, because I feel most salespeople think about gift of the gab as the main thing, whereas what you are saying is understanding the desires, understanding the human nature, understanding and connecting from a human aspect is much more important, and giving is more important than taking. And I'm sorry, so I would like to go deep into that part.
Sure. Well, I hope we don't have time to go that deep, but deep enough.
Yeah.
We're motivated. Some people have to ask themselves, why am I in sales? And every year I give a lecture at an MBA course here in McGill University on sales, actually, sales strategies course. And for the longest of time, and I've had my own sales staff, obviously, for 15 years with salespeople. So I understand, I know what salespeople think, because, well, I think I know a little bit. I am one too, but I always put an opening screen on on my PowerPoint on in the classroom, and it says, "You want to make a sale or you want to create a career?" There's a difference. So one of them is transactional, and one much more is more relational and transformational. And I asked that question, and it just tells them that you want to win a race or you want to, become the Grand Slam champion like Rafael Nadal or Margaret Court, who has 24, by the way, Grand Slams. So Nadal doesn't have the biggest one. It's a woman. And then Serena Williams, 23. Anyways, tangentially, I wanted to add that. But they were not thinking about winning one match or one set. They were thinking about winning overall in life. And when you become successful in sales and when you become, appreciated by people, the people will tell you, and they will say, what should I do with this? What should I do with that? They start asking you because they trust you. They trust that your intent, your voice, your demeanor over time indicates to them that they're listening to someone over the phone that has a calm, confident demeanor about them. They're posturing for the better, and their victory is your victory. So I have a prospect that actually in your area in Silicon Valley, which I'll be helping him with some of his own needs, prospecting and web. And he wrote to me, he says, "Can we wait till next week? Because I'm onto a real estate transaction." Well, I said, fine, no problem. And I said, I will pray so that, your transaction materializes.
Yeah.
And he wrote back with a smile. He says, "Yes, it's happening for 12 million. So I was super happy for him. So when you're happy for someone else and you're a professional in sales, you are starting on the right path to really creating value for your clients and for yourself, and to serve their real needs, their real clear problems, which are reiterated. Soft skills, those soft skills are what is going to make you or break you. You may be very not very skilled with technology, but if you care and if you continue to stay in touch with them, nobody who has a real problem, who is serious about their job, will reproach you or will criticize you for trying too many times to reach them.
Yeah.
They appreciate it.
Definitely. And I agree.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. But I want to ask, I want to go deep into, because I wanted to know a little more about what your methodology is. Like I see here on the screen, your methodology, which you shared with me, called Teams, and we have it on there. And that's what I wanted to share with everyone, because we have been promoting it, that we want to go deep into it. One question I want to ask you is, while you are explaining that, I would like you to explain or talk about two important things. First of all, we are talking about salespeople not as a sales rep or sales executive or an employee. We're talking about salespeople of anybody who is a business owner, a CEO, or a vice president, or anybody who is there interacting or understanding the customer, who are trying to sell his company or his product or something to someone. It may be one person, or it can be a CEO of the company of 1,000 or $100 million company, right? So that's the one context I want to clear. Then the two things I want to ask you is, I think you alluded to the fact that we are not salespeople, we are kind of buying assistant. And if you can explain that when you are going through this, one thing. And then another question which bugs me always is that how important is the script for a salesperson when we're talking about human to human connection and all that? So is it possible that we talk about this and then I can stop sharing it so that we can see each other much better?
Sure. I mean, as you wish. Okay. You've asked a couple of questions there. Not one, you've asked two or three questions. So kindly repeat the first question, and then I can answer the second one after. The
first question was, the first question is, are we should we treat ourselves as it's a mind shift change you are proposing. Should we treat ourselves as a buying assistant, helping and exploring and unearthing the desires and the problems of the customer, or we should think of as a salesperson in the new word right now, or how it's changed? That's my first question.
Well, first of all, we have to understand that buyers today are way more informed than they were before. It was natural, it was easier 30, 40 years ago to come with a brochure and drop it off, and people would have not much recourse as to the information they could gather to make an intelligent decision. Today, it's been proven, even on a strategic level, that prospects are much more informed, and they are probably more than halfway in their decision making or kind of iterative thinking about what they need to have as ingredients. When you come to them, if you're coming to them and you tell them, I'd like to know more about your problems, I'd like to understand what you're going through, I'd like to see what options you have, you're going to be, like pushed off the side very quickly and politely, often, I hope, anyway. You have to come to the table with real clear crystal information that they're likely to say, oh my goodness, this person really understands my situation. I mean, I've trained 20 different reps for one international company in 3 continents. And the first day and the first hour of coaching, the second hour of coaching on a weekly basis was draft me a document that shows me that you understand clearly the problems, the real big problems of your prospects. Mm-hmm. And it took them, like, it was tough.
Yeah,
it's tough, but that's what doing good work is. It requires effort, thinking, disciplined execution, serious understanding, sincere caring for the work that you're going to perform for those people. And if you come to the table and you have Claire, then they'll want to know more about you because you positively disrupted them, or you actually brought stuff that they didn't know about. So really, you need to be very clear on your intent when you come in to do the kind of work that you do for them. That will allow you, that will give them the permission to justify you coming to the table, so to speak, with them on a conversation of value. They will give you the 15-minute. They will give you the 30-minute. You don't ask for 2 hours on the first encounter.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like you're dating someone, you meet them for the first time. You don't ask them to go on a trip on a honeymoon. You don't even ask them to go to your apartment. You ask them, let's go for coffee or a dinner or a movie or something, very quietly and gently. People don't like to be, disrupted and brutalized like you were. You were ransacked into a purchasing pressure kind of stuff, which we talk about. So you have to have relevance. If you're relevant and you care and you approach it correctly and you're curious, caringly curious. I mean, there's many answers, and I'm sure people who are listening to this with us, I'm sure there are people there that are brilliant and knowledgeable, just as me, as much as you and I. But this is kind of my take on things. I hope it helps a little bit,
Yeah, no, definitely. And I would like to know more about the teams now. We have covered this thing, a lot of stuff, but would you like to speak a little more about the teams method so that we can learn more?
Sure. Well, my experience has been over the years is that the number one problem, besides prospecting as a fundamental core problem of unskilled prospecting skills, or unskilled prospecting individuals in a company, because everybody turns around to each other and say, who's going to sell? Nobody wants to sell. Everybody wants to produce, create, invent, innovate, whatever. But when it comes to selling, oh my goodness, not me, right? Yeah. Which is just fear of people and fear of yourself. So target is the number one problem. Most companies compromise on the establishment of the exact, perfect, ideal profile of who is your ideal customer. They all know that. They all say, oh yeah, I know my ICP. But when you really ask them to get really drill down and granular about the information and get specifics about attributes and characteristics, even to the point of understanding the culture of the company, they're not going to give you all the answers. To the extent that you take the time and you prepare correctly, no differently than these athletes at the Olympics, they go through understanding nutrition, their sleeping patterns, their training, their rest, the mental, they have psychologists, they have all kinds of teams surrounding them. Needless to say that you also need to really understand who you're targeting. So T is for targeting your motivation, targeting the problems of your clients, targeting the reasons why you sell. Why are you in sales? A lot of people can't even answer that question.
Yeah.
A lot of them will say because it's a very lucrative thing. And yes, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I've generated some very successful projects in my past that I know doctors don't make that much.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have the doctor's education. So if you really are clear, crystal clear on your target, everything will emanate from that. You'll at least start from a fundamental, solid grounding of the foundation of your house on which you can build the rest of your activities. So be crystal clear on your conversation, know what people makes them suffer, physically, maybe even, because when you're worried about something, you also, so if you get to understand the heart of the person, you can engage in a caring approach, and then it's strategic, it's business, nothing personal, which I don't believe. I think everything is personal, right?
Yeah.
A little bit. So that target, E means to execute. Execution. A lot of people say, I don't want to share my knowledge of my idea with people because I'm afraid someone will copy, right? We've heard that before.
Yeah.
I will tell you something from very successful friends of mine who've had their inventions. They've gone on to become very wealthy. And they say, what, we knew that most people don't execute.
Yeah.
Execution is, they talk a lot, but they don't execute. So execution is where you learn the how, the which way you're going to use, which tools you're going to use, how you're going to cadence it. And today, there's a plethora of wonderful automation tools for all kinds of tech stacks that you can use to free yourself up from some of the clutter that maybe gets in the way of your engaging with people. Again, people trust people, and that's how you are able to get the buy-in, is because they like you, they trust you, they sense also, and I will go further and say they understand your sincerity. Very difficult to discern in some people. They understand that you're sincere about it, and there'll be proof of that over time. I believe I spoke to you this morning about a client of mine who had called me this morning, that I called because I had to share something with them. So that's execute. And it takes on all of the, obviously, procedural kind of details of cadencing, sequencing, follow-up. But I will tell you something. No executive, and I said it earlier, no executive or no strategic buyer will ever fault you for following up too much. Never. Yeah. Especially if you care, and especially if you're resolving a serious problem, he or she, more often than not, I've had people to write back to me or call me and say, I'm sorry if I haven't gotten back to you that early. I'm so sorry that I left you in hanging. And so you have to have, if you're a career-oriented professional, you're not interested in the sale, you're caring about the process, and you understand that stuff happens in life. So you're not so me, and my feelings, and it's not about you, it's about them. Care about them. Don't worry about it. We'll get it done. And people feel reassured. So your sincerity is proven through time, but you need time to prove it through time. In your initial, it's all about a caring approach. You're curious, you have information, you like to share some ideas. And people like that will not say no to an idea. So execution is at the forefront. If you're not doing it, you're never going to get the results.
Yeah.
A is for account for activity. We talk about tech stacks. The number one tech stacks besides yourself is your CRM, your dynamic system of record, the place where all activity, all relationship information with regards to a prospect are documented, and ideally in live, right in the moment that you're actually executing. Write it down, it's fresh in your mind. That's another thing I coach reps with, and salespeople and entrepreneurs that I coach, is where's your CRM? Are you populating that information now? So if we do role playing, I said, put it in now, put it on the screen, share the screen, put it in your CRM, put it in, and I browbeat them, because the fundamentals, as a squash professional, I knew from actually, I worked with Heather Mackay, the number one in the world for 18 years. And she said, when I go into a match, and she, by the way, she lost one tournament match in 17 years.
Wow.
One. She said, I always look to play well. I don't look to win. Because if I look to play well and the solid basics, usually I will win. And she did. She proved it. So practice populating over a while, it becomes your habit. So that's your account for activity, because then you can never regret having populated all the information. Then there's the M for measure. They say you can't manage if you can't measure. So be it. There's quantitative information, there's qualitative information. And usually if you're doing a good job, you have a team effort. It's not just you. You can call your manager or your director or your VP and say, I have an issue with this particular information that was shared with me with the prospect. What do you think? So my team's model is also a team approach.
Yeah. No.
Right. So it's really measure and decide, okay, that person said that. What is that person saying? A person can say something and be saying something else. So if you don't have the information, though, you can't measure. So you need to populate. And there's also this, and I want to clarify this because I've heard this too many times. People are afraid to populate their CRM because they're afraid their boss will control them and will investigate that they're doing things. Well, if you don't put anything in there, they'll certainly know that you're not doing what you're supposed to. So if you put nothing, you kind of put your foot in, you shoot your own self foot. And secondly, your boss can't help you if he doesn't know what you're doing. And it's in the interest of both the vice president of sales, the owners of the company, and the rep, so that he or she can know that the progression is likely to happen and you can de-risk your forecast accuracy and meet your goals and be corrected. Far too many salespeople will say, we don't trust the culture. Well, don't work for that company. Go work with someone that has integrity, that treats you fairly. And I can tell, I have stories both of good and bad, and that's human nature. That's not just in sales, that's in all areas of endeavor. But so populate, do things right. It will come back and benefit you. And you'll be able to get a better sense of what's going on in your pipeline. It's like, if you don't know, you don't know. If you don't know, how can you know? So it's just plain common sense, not uncommon. So I say to executives and owners and leadership, take care of your reps. It's not easy to sell. They need all the tools. They need the right coaching, no differently than Rafael Nadal or anybody else who is going to be excellent in anything. When I think of our Olympians, the years of dedication, 6 days a week, 6 a.m. at the weight room, on the ice, wherever. Why not differently? Why not with sales? Sales is not easy, but it can be easier if you discipline yourself, and you'll get to joyfully reap the rewards with relationships with your clients. They'll trust you. They'll refer you if you ask, and you'll get paid a fine dollar. So that's the measure. Measure is also M for manage. Manage is look at it, assess it, decide, and then act upon it so that you can succeed. It's a very simple model, TEAMMS, but it's a structure for people to start thinking in terms of how to act on a day-to-day basis, because success is the repetition of good tasks. The fact that you've been driving 40 years a car doesn't mean you drive well.
Yeah.
You could be driving bad for 40 years.
There's another thing which I used to say: if you have 20 years of experience and you're doing the same job for the last 20 years, you have 2 years of experience multiplied by 10 times. That same, so it will be considered at 2 years of experience rather than 20 years of experience. So I understand. So I thank you very much. And shall I say in Punjabi it is called Vadia. This
Vadia.
is Vadia. Yes, this is fantastic. I wanted to say, because the team's methodology and other things which you have discussed, I really enjoyed them, and they are very important to me personally, because I also think about connecting with my and we're not talking about only the salespeople and all that. Like I say, entrepreneurs, business owners, and if you understand your target, identify your target and all that, it can even help with your marketing and advertising and all that. It's not about getting that next contract from somebody and get it signed. So I have a question from the audience. One question. It says, I'll paraphrase it. It says that how do I know what I'm doing wrong, or when I'm doing wrong, if I target, I search, and I do all the actions like calling and all that, and still I'm not able to get hold of the sales as per me. So how do I? So you're talking about measurements. I think this person wants to know, when do I know I'm wrong? So hope before it is too late.
Well, part of that will come from just doing, right? In the doing, you will learn things. If you're getting no response, depends on the kind of company and product you sell or service you offer and solutions you provide. If it's a long cycle, and you know from the history of your colleagues or bosses, that usually we've had is as little as 3 months and as long as 1 year, and you're on it for 1.5 years, 2 years, and you haven't purchased, maybe you should listen to the benchmark that your project or your clients or your boss has said.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, look at what you're doing. Try different things. Selling is also creativity. You have to try different things and approach different things. I always say learners are earners. So if you're learning by reading books, achieving success will be a lot likely to happen because you're educating yourself. And from that thinking, from that new idea, apply it. Try different things, and you'll say, and then be honest, brutally honest. Sometimes it's just being brutally honest with the prospect. Says, why are you ghosting me? Why are you not getting back to me? Ask them, like I write them, why are you ghosting me? And they'll often say, I'm so sorry, I was busy. So that's one thing. Look at the actions you're doing. Mm-hmm. Have you got a plan for action, or is it random? Have you got sequences prepared and cadences? There's a lot of questions you need to ask yourself, but that is a noble one. And to say you're wrong, you're never wrong. You just have to adjust the information, adjust your actions.
Yeah.
To try is not a wrong thing. It's a good thing. Congratulations that you keep going, because you'll eventually get it. But I would say seek a mentor, not without preaching for my own, parish, so to speak, but get a coach, get a competent coach that can help you. Just like I had a coach in cycling, right?
Yeah,
in training. Even you said that executives and CEOs have coaches.
Yeah,
because
I think, yeah. I say that, Denis, Lord, sorry, I'm interjected. I was so excited about this because I wanted to share one of my major learning in life is that I could have done maybe 10 years before what I have done now, had I accepted or found a coach or found a mentor at the right time, paid or unpaid, whatever it was. I should have looked for somebody 15 years back. I did not at the right time. And I think for every business owner, every entrepreneur, it is very, very important to have a mentor who knows more than you, or who can actually be a, what do you call that, who can throw some light in the darkness of the forest and all that what you see in front of you. So I have another question, and it says, I think you answered a little bit of that, how technology and COVID have impacted the B2B. I think we have talked about B2B, B2C, but especially in case of the business to business, longer sales cycle products and businesses. Yeah, we have many business owners and entrepreneurs who are into the B2B space. So in that part, and I remember once you told me a couple of weeks back, if I can refer that McKinsey did a study about that if they cut some $10,000 price or something like that.
What I said is that this study McKinsey did last year, a study around the world with different procurement and buyers.
Mm-hmm.
And on account of the fact that we are remote, that there's a likelihood that you may not have physical presence to engage in commercial selling and B2B selling, that often it can occur through audio video platforms, that the consensus has come over time to acquiesce, to recognize that maybe we will not be able to meet with these people because they didn't know. We don't know the future. Maybe there'll be a fifth outbreak or a sixth. We don't know yet, right? We're hoping, so far, because we're all probably mostly vaccinated, not all of them, but whatever, it mitigates the damages. McKinsey decided to ask the questions to buyers and procurement, and out of the 100% of the procurement around the world, not only here, 40% of the procurement people said that they would be amenable and open to engaging in buying and paying up to $500,000 of services or products, okay, without having you physically show up.
Okay, because
there was another 11% of the buyer community and procurement community who would be willing to go even up to $1 million. What that says is that they are now adapting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What that says is that they are willing to learn to trust more.
So if you are a B2B entrepreneur and you have a manufacturing company or something, and then you are selling products which can be, say, sold for $500,000 or $1 million, then your business models have to be looked into again, because now you no longer required to be in front of the client all the time. So maybe because of that, there will be more competition, maybe more geographical, from other geographies, people can now sell to your customers and all that. So there's a lot of changes happening because of that, I think, and that's this word. So thank you for sharing this McKinsey's study, because I think it opens up a lot of, opens my eyes towards a lot of intense competition which can happen, and it requires a business reinventing the business model on some parts of their products. Am I correct in there?
Yes, there's a caveat though that I did not mention. That is with the assumption that people are executing in a combo or omni-channel approach. Okay. Because again, you have to be attractive and get traction. You have to have had some really mutually acknowledged problem statements. That means the prospect and the representative or the salesperson have both agreed there's a problem. Until the prospect accepts the proposition that there is a problem, acquiesces, acknowledges, recognizes that there's a problem, and that maybe what you're providing is a solution, and they open the door to ongoing exploration together, and that you approach them by reaching out to them in many different fronts, namely LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, you can do a video to their direct message. You can leave a voice message. You can write a text. You can use Signal, Telegram, WhatsApp, SMS, email. There's so many ways of reaching out to people. You got to have the omni-channel to again consistently maintain yourself in front of them, provide them with articles that support what you do. Go and do research on them. I had reps in Brazil and South America, and Chile, and Bogota, Colombia, and I asked them to go to the public, what they call the press relations websites, to see if those companies had had bad press or had problems that they didn't tell you, but that they had with the community because they were into the mining or industrial, that you could know and help them to try to save their their reputation or prevent any further, because they were in environmental intelligence. That gave them substance. So you got to have research, you got to do the omni-channel, and then that you have enough traction with these people that they're likely to say, yeah, we can have a conversation. Because if you don't get to that conversation, you'll never know. You got to get to a place of conversation.
So I have another question from RD. It says, wonderful insight. Thanks. I heard you thoroughly. What is the ideal life cycle period? Ideal sales cycle period, or perhaps the client engagement period? I mean, the closure period. We tend to stretch ourselves at times to get the sales closure, but till what point should we stretch ourselves? It's a valid point.
Very good point. That's why opening is the most important and crucial point of encounter. You must do all that you can and should in the preemptive preparation, what I call the targeting correctly their messaging, targeting the problems, targeting those ideal customer profiles, those buyers in the community. Now people are assembling. The CFO will talk to the CXO, will talk to the CTO. They are all indirect or direct influencers. You got to find who's that person who's the most likely, and you cannot give up. Now, he says, we stretch ourselves. Well, in sales, we do stretch ourselves. If you're not stretching yourself, more than likely, you're not going to get the sale. Sometimes you don't know. You have to, there's a part of it that if you did everything well, you targeted correctly, you have the right intent, you have really gotten a mutually acknowledged agreement that the problem exists, and yet you have engaged into a march, engaged into a step by process. You have had them accept that there's a problem, that they are open. That's a relationship. It becomes more of a consultant, assistant buyer. You're looking for help, and you go through on the path. Then you have to, like, closing is not a finite particular moment. It is a progressively acknowledged, comfortable, trusting relationship and secure knowledge that what you are offering is the best solution for them. There will probably be moments where you can ask them, why don't we work together towards an action plan, an agreement action plan? It's a path to closing. That's what you're saying. Let's set up an agreement on a project action plan. I heard that once from a coach. Run, fantastic word. It's the same thing as a closing. Another thing you may want to do is, and I can suggest to Rajeshri, how do you spell?
Rajeshri.
Rajeshri. You can, and I thought that this was brilliant. You ask them, they don't have time. They can't answer your questionnaire. You do a discovery and you say, you just talk and I will write. And you write everything down of the questions that you obviously have prepared. You write them down, okay? Then you send them back to the prospect, all that you wrote down, and says, please, could you correct or adjust your own answers?
Yeah.
Right? And then they will, okay, this is not good, this is not good. And you know what? Then you put that in the proposal. How can they say no to themselves?
Yeah.
They have closed themselves.
I have last thing I want to last one. Thank you. Thank you, Rajshri, for asking this question. So I want to add here is that I have been using the methodology of spin selling. You must have been used that,
Yes.
right? For a longer sales cycle products, for a complex sales cycle products, and I have been always been a proponent of spin selling, and says understanding the problem is one. Going a little deep to understand it is okay, to understand situation and all that, but understanding what the implications of not doing that stuff or not solving that problem is for the company or the decision maker is the main thing. And if you are able to ask the right questions and make that client or make that middle manager or a VP or a CEO think about the implications of what will happen if they don't solve their own problem, I think that is where the turnaround happens. That's one methodology, and I think you must be using many more methodologies in your.
Well, like I said, I don't spend a lot of, like I am selling for a partner in the US, a CRM. I sell Salesforce. I help him with Salesforce because I've used it for many years in different positions I held. And I enjoy it. And I believe it's a natural, important tool to have. Like I said before, it's the first one besides yourself. But usually sales are lost because of an enemy. The enemy is status quo. They will do nothing.
Yeah. They want nothing.
Because you've got to remember, when you help someone to make a decision, you have to consider that they are probably accountable for the decision. They may lose their, drastic situation, they may lose their job because if they made a bad decision.
Yeah.
So you got to care for the company and for the individual who is in charge of the decision. There's so many people who are in position to say no. It's very easy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So
how many can say yes? Very few.
Yeah.
You got to be careful about what's the impact on their lives as the executive making the decision. So you got to ask them, what's in it if you don't do something? Yes, the vacuum. And often you have to say things that are serious, that create some tension. If you're not practicing those tight, tough, emotionally impactful situations in practice, that's what I do with my clients. We practice the roles. We put you in that situation of discomfort so that eventually, because it's been proven, and Zig Ziglar, I remember Zig Ziglar talking about this. When you ask the obligating question, we're actually not normal in your decision. Why? Because the prospect's blood pressure goes up, and so does yours. So theoretically, you're not normal.
Yeah.
So you have to practice so that practice this and your blood pressure stays low, because there's an arousal of a decision, and it's exciting, and at the same time, it's scary. You have to be in control of your own physiology and mentality to help them calm down to make a good decision.
Denis, I must tell you, I'm enjoying the conversation so much. I would love to have you again into this, because otherwise I would have continued for another 1 hour with you right now with the way we are going. But I think I have to care about our team in India, the Chamber of Commerce. They have been helping us a lot,
Thank you.
doing this. Yeah. So thank you. We call
Dwanda G.
Dhanwad ji. Yeah. I think this is one of the word you were learning, right? Dhanwad ji, right? Dhanwad ji. Yes, and I remember you learned that. And I thank you very much for all the help Vrinda, Rajshri, and Akash and everybody have been doing for us. And thank you very much. And thank you very much, Denis, for doing this for time for us. And we will meet again. We will dig deep into some of these points in next 3, 4, 5 months.
Yeah, you have a screen, I think, at the end. I think that has our LinkedIn profiles, both you and I on it.
Yes. I should share. And this is our LinkedIn profile. If anybody wants to get in touch with Denis or me and have more questions, please connect with Denis. And this is the number. And anybody, if you can't reach out to Denis or me, reach out to Punjabi Chamber of Commerce, and they can reach out to us. So we are here to help you grow in your business and prosper. Right? Thank
Yes,
you. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for your help.
Thank you very
Great.
much for
Yeah.
inviting me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm closing for everyone. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Thank you, Davindra.